Hey, Strong Girls. I'm Molly Herford, sports journalist, ultra runner, cyclist, and author, and founder of Strong Girl Publishing.
And I'm Dr. Sasha Golish, Executive Director of Yellow Running Shoes, a researcher, engineer, elite runner, and your BFF who's breaking down the science of smashing barriers in women's sports.
Think of us as the intersection of science and culture for women and girls in sport. Each week, we'll dissect the latest headlines and cutting-edge research on female athletes.
Debunk myths about girls in sport. Talk about how hormones affect performance at every age, to the latest research in sports science around mental performance, nutrition, equipment, and so much more.
And we'll spotlight badass girls and women who are rewriting the rules of the game, sometimes literally.
Expect it to be nerdy.
And occasionally TMI.
But it will always be honest.
Whether you're a strong girl yourself or you're raising one, this show is for you. Welcome to Strong Girl Talk,
where sports science meets sisterhood.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Strong Girl Talk. Sasha, I'm so excited to see you again. This every other week is very sad because it means we talk less, but here we are.
I mean, we can still talk. I mean, Molly.
We do still talk. Let's be honest.
You don't like texting. I'm not sure I'm good on the phone. I'm not very good at email.
I should be clear. I'm also not good on the phone. I'm just like a no connection person. It's very embarrassing for me.
Just Molly sends the best emails. Just for the record, Molly sends the best emails.
That's trying to make me sound much nicer than I am. I'm actually just really bad at communicating, but I try.
This is bad then between the two of us. Me too.
We've got this. And we have a lot to cover today. We have an awesome guest, very exciting. To kick off kind of our quick wrap on what's going on in the world of women's sports. So I saw this article on Forbes a couple weeks ago that I just wanted to call out, talking about how sports journalism should be adapting to women's sports. And what I thought was just so important to point out is like, we're at this critical mass in women's sports. We have the fans, everyone's talking about it. You know, everyone's here for the women's race, where everyone watches women's sports, etc. And I think that's all awesome. And I think we need to keep that going. But at the same time, this article pointed out, rightly so, we also need to actually improve our coverage of women's sports and bring it to the same level that we are covering men's sports. So this means not just being like, yay, there's a Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift, but like, yay, there's a Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. Plus, here is, the exact same kind of coverage that we are giving to the Tour de France. Ditto Giro d'Italia, ditto Western States, which, you know what? Let's just say it. Love Western States, kind of got my fingers crossed for the lottery. But as I crossed my fingers for the lottery, you had an excellent point on the Yellow Running Shoes post that you just did. Hit us with the stats.
So there must have been 380 spots, but Jim Walmsley dropped out, so there were 379 as reported. But Jim, man, so of the 380, there were only 101 spots given to women. And it's like, raise the hairy eyeball of like, well, if you have a lottery system, why isn't it equal? And to your point, like, Molly, if it's not equal and you're trying to get in, I'm like, give women the spots, right? Like, if you build it, they will come, right? And I don't know. I find that so frustrating because like the data is there to say for equity, for gender equity, what we need to do is give women the same opportunities, not based on the number of runners participating, which is probably their argument. It should just be at an event like Western States, right? Like World Athletics does in the marathon, where we know that more men globally participate in the marathon. At the World Athletics marathon start line, it's gender equity.
Yeah. And I mean, especially from a race that really has pushed the idea of everyone's here for the women's race, I find that so surprising. Like, if you had asked me, I would have assumed that it was 50-50. And I mean, we know the barriers for women, especially as race distances get longer. It is much harder for women. There's so many other, pressing issues with their time, whether we agree with it or not. Like, women end up with the brunt of childcare, the brunt of housework. They're balancing a lot of stuff. So to actually go out and do the races to actually get the lottery tickets is harder. We have research that backs that up. That is not like a made up thing.
It's not anecdotal. But okay, but go back to coverage and fine, I should have started there. But we talked about this before we got on, right? Like the coverage wasn't balanced, right? And if you've got these checkpoints, and I should I'm gonna pass it to you because you said this so well, but like if all of the checkpoints are on a screen in front of you, Molly, what should we do differently?
Well, this comes back to what I said at the Athletics Ontario Race Director Conference, which is the, kind of task I gave all of the promoters there. I said, what if you put the women's race as the default race, and then the men's race is kind of the other race, the same way that we have typically looked at the men's race is the default race and then the women's race is this other race. What if you flip the script? What if you say the women's race is the race and then the men are also racing? That means you start with the women's coverage, you focus on the women's coverage, and then the men's coverage is still there. You're still including it, but you're really focused on the women's race. And especially because the women in the top 10 finished in a tighter pack than the men in the top 10, there you can't argue that, oh, it was easier to follow the front men. It wasn't. The women were actually closer behind, and we didn't really get to see their stories as much. We didn't really get to hear their racing. And, you know, I have nothing but respect for the promote or the commentators for that race. I know it's very hard to run commentary for 14, 18, 20 hours. Absolutely. And I understand they're probably looking at whatever screen is being like broadcast in front of them. I don't think they're necessarily like hitting the button for like what's showing on the live stream, but
Oh, I made the assumption that they had all these screens in front of them with every single camera.
yeah, I'm not sure how exactly it works, but I do wish the race would kind of wake up to the like, okay,
Yeah.
we really should give the women the coverage that they deserve. And, I don't think you need to split the streams. I just think you need to be a little bit more conscientious of following the women's race as closely as you follow the men's race.
Okay, so then we're talking about the Giro next. So it is once again, Sasha Golish is just in so much love that there's so much good sports on television. And I get up every morning, and it's a men's Tour de France or Giro d'Italia women. It's had 4, 5 different iterations of its name, and I pick whatever starts first. That's right. So like 6:35 has generally been the start of the Giro d'Italia women, so it goes first, and then I watch it, and then I'll go through Tour de France. You're like, what? I'm like, I sit with my laptop in front of the television. Nobody else needs to know that. But so they have the the walk-ins and the first interviews, blah blah blah. Like they have like the men's coverage, but then they jump into the race. They don't cover the rollout like it's at some point in the race. Okay, also just general beef with cycling coverage, especially I think it's only a road thing. Could you please show me the total time? I love knowing the distance, like to go, the difference between time and like the peloton and where all the jerseys are. But I would also like to know how long they've been on the road. Okay, anyways, just had to put that out there. But yeah, the women's Giro, and we know Tour de France, Tour de Femme avec Zwift isn't going to get the same coverage. It jumps in. Why?
It's, yeah, absolutely a great question. I mean, the answer is money, but it is still a very important, very, pressing question, especially because, like, frankly, when I tell you I've been doing a lot of the Tour de France coverage for Bicycling Magazine,
You're wonderful.
that's
I know
literally
that.
that's the only race we cover. Like it's not that we covered the Giro d'Italia men's and then we're not covering the Giro women's. Bicycling just only covers the tour. Like that's the
Okay.
race they cover. They're going to cover Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. I'm going to be doing that as well. Definitely check it out, bicycling.com. Um, but I will say, oh my God, it's super annoying. They cover the entire neutral rollout.
Yeah, I watched that too.
And I'm just like, why am I watching 12 kilometers of neutral? Um, God love those commentators because, like, man, even today when you're talking about like a 4 hour time trial stage, like,
Oh,
again,
loved it.
props to commentators. They've got to just keep yapping for 4 hours as very little is happening on the screen in front of them. Good for them.
Love it. I love that you're like, I'm like, I was so interested in the whole thing and the way things play out and, like thinking about the aerodynamics of the time trial and like the women's time trial and the Giro d'Italia women's on the first stage was like phenomenal. Anyway.
Uh, I have such mixed feelings about the time trial. I'm like
Oh,
annoyed that they don't have one in Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift. They haven't for the last two. They won't this year. They didn't last year. I find that really annoying. However, I also hate a time trial. I said it.
like participating or watching or
Uh,
both.
Probably both. I'm not really a huge time trial fan, but definitely dislike watching. I find it very boring. Um, I can understand your engineering perspective. I'm with you there. My issue is it basically like separates the standings so quickly that when you're trying to really hype up a GC and like have it be a tight battle, there's nothing like an individual time trial to just
Explode.
shatter it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what about a prologue, which is like effectively a short time trial, like anywhere between like 4 and 6 or 7K? How do you feel about the prologue? I like the prologue.
Oh,
I think I like the prologue better than the TT.
see, I dislike anything where it starts us with like a really spread out GC.
But it
Because
can't be that spread out over 4 to 6K.
I guess that's true. Okay, yeah, give me
Yeah.
a shorter one. You're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Because a 30, like so the Tour de France one, sorry, we're talking about men's sports for like 10 seconds, but it's just conceptual. This could be the women's race too.
Yeah.
A long time trial, like the time gaps are minutes.
Massive. Oh my gosh, they were
Huge.
massive, right? Like
Huge.
Vanderpool lost the yellow jersey today by like over a minute. And maybe it's different with like when it's a later stage, right? But now it's kind of like, okay, is the men's Tour de France going to be like, okay, Pogacar's got the yellow jersey. Like, is he just going to hold the yellow jersey,
Yeah,
right?
basically.
Until,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes, he is.
fine. Okay, anyways, the women's Giro. So the coverage thing where like there's not enough money, I just don't buy. We do it for the men's. It grew. That's how you do it, right? Like to the Forbes article, like just invest in it. There are people that are watching and like looking at the crowds in Italy, there are people watching. So, yeah, no.
I have high expectations for next year's Giro d'Italia women because they're moving it earlier in the season. I think
Okay.
like this is the like
It's
literally
too
the
busy.
worst timing you could
Yeah,
have.
yeah. There's not enough helicopters, buses, and coverage. Like I actually, to your point, I think that's a fair assessment.
Well, yeah, and all of the, you're separating because like the Tour de France Femmes starts in a couple weeks, which
Yeah.
means there are a lot of the top riders that are
Not
opting out
there.
or are just like kind of cruising in the back trying to like help their teammates, but like
Yeah.
aren't trying to go as hard as they possibly can because they need to be, well recovered. They need to not get hurt. Like, we saw crashes in this race already. You know, the teams are already dialed for Tour de France Femmes. Like, if they aren't, if someone gets hurt in this race, that could really mess with the team. So I think it's
Okay,
just
but
terrible timing.
I agree. Okay, so let's go with like who is going to go hard this weekend? Everybody in Andorra.
Everybody in Andorra. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the racing that we really like watching. The
Yeah.
fast, speedy 20 minutes to 90 minutes of racing with cross country mountain bike World Cup in Andorra. Very excited. And even more excited because this week's guest, we have Vanessa Hauswald. She is one of the women behind Kate Courtney's foundation. She sends. She has been with NICA for a really long time. She was with, NorCal Cycling League before it was even, before NICA was even around. You
Molly, what's NICA? Because I'm probably not the only person who's
know,
like, wait, what's the acronym?
That's true. National Interscholastic Cycling Association. So it's actually a terrible, terrible acronym for high school mountain biking in the US. Apologies to NICA for being mean about their name, but it's a really odd name for a high school mountain biking league. But I mean, when I say they have gotten thousands and thousands and
Yeah.
thousands of kids on mountain bikes, I am not exaggerating. It's been so cool to see the growth of NICA as an organization. From like the coolest thing about NICA is when you go league to league, you go state to state. Some of the leagues are so grassroots, so chill, so casual, tiny little teams, very just like, oh, run what you brung. We're just here to have fun. And then, you head out to California and some of the places around the US, and it is like serious knockdown, drag out, like professional level mountain bike racing. And I just love that kind of all racing is sort of like welcome and applauded in NICA, and they can be super serious, they can be super fun. Usually there's some kind of a mix of both. It's just such a cool program. Highly recommend checking it out if you are a listener in the US with a kid in high school, or actually they're going down to like even fifth grade now in
Oh,
some of the
cool.
leagues. So it's well worth checking out, trying to bring a league to your school if you don't have one already. And Vanessa, Sasha, and I talked all about, just how we can bring more girls into cycling, into sport in general. Where are the gaps? What are we missing? What can we be doing better? You two had such a good discussion about making magic at practice, and I loved it so much.
Still my post-it note. Um, as I like reflect on our conversation yesterday and listening to you now, I'm like, wait, who do we go lobby here? How do we bring Nike to Canada?
It's like it's in the works, I think.
Oh, fabulous. Okay. 'Cause you said it best, right? Like the magic happens, and the magic happens on bikes when everybody knows they can show up and be a version of themselves, right? And I think that's what makes cycling so special, right? There's not one way to do it. Like running, like fine, there's all these different events, but there's one way to do it. But cycling, there's not, and I think that's what makes it so special. But we're losing that here, right? Like we're losing bikes coming to schools where kids may not have opportunities to ride bikes, to learn how to ride bikes. Like that's not happening in physical health and education classes. That was called gym. It's not happening in gym. I'm not supposed to call it gym, but it's not happening in gym.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, the closest proximity to NICA or like high school mountain biking is when you say like cross country running would be like the
Yeah.
closest common like example of it. But you know what? I've been to cross country practices and walking is not allowed, right? Like
Yeah.
if you see a kid start walking, the coach is gonna kind of like come to the back and be like, "All right, let's hustle, let's hustle." And you know, a lot of kids can't run. I couldn't run when I was in high school. Like I couldn't make it a mile. I like there was just no way. But the cool thing about cycling is you can pedal at like a walking pace,
Totally.
basically.
Yeah, we call
And
for a bike walk. Let's go
yeah,
for a bike walk.
no one's gonna say anything. Like you're pedaling, you can move. You can be, you know, you don't need to have fitness to get into biking the same way that you need to have fitness to get into any other school sport.
Okay, I have to share this because I talking about biking. Molly, I rode the bike yesterday.
I'm so
I,
happy for you.
I woke up pain-free today.
I'm so happy for you.
I have missed biking so much, but like I also like as we're talking about it and thinking about yesterday, like biking just opens up so many more worlds, right? It's a method of transportation. I don't want, it's a method of doing training in a different way. You're not going to go on a family run, or like very few people do, but you're going to go on a family bike ride. Actually, I'm going to the A6 event tonight where it's a run and ice cream, but like since I can't run, I'm riding my bike to meet somebody and then I'm going for ice cream. But like you can ride your bike to get ice cream as a family. And it's such a powerful vehicle for bringing community together and like not just metaphorically, it's like
I was gonna say
quite
it's
a
literally a vehicle. Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
as defined under the Highway Traffic Act of Ontario, it is an unmotorized vehicle. Nerd alert.
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking. I keep saying Shred Girls Book 5. I think is going to be very focused on the fact that like seeing the bike as like a vehicle for social change and social justice and all of that. I think is going to be very key in that one. So trying to figure out how to make that like a fun, sexy adventure, not sexy in like a sexy way, just like a fun adventure.
Yeah. Fun
Um,
adventure. Let's go ride bikes and talk about it.
yeah, perfect. Done. We'll get ice cream too. I love it. Okay, with that, let's get into this conversation with Vanessa Hauswald. Make sure you check out everything Nike is doing, and of course, SheSendsFoundation.org. Okay, welcome back to Strong Girl Talk. Sasha and I have the awesome Vanessa Hauswald of She Sends, formerly of Nika, and generally of badass women in cycling that I am very excited to chat with. Vanessa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat today too.
Okay, well, let's kind of just get started by building up your background in cycling. When did you get into it? How did you get into it? You know, how did you kind of move into the position you're in now? Because you've had kind of a really interesting journey. And I'm also, side note, very sad that we've been kind of on alternate coasts. I've always been more East Coast, you're West Coast. So I'm shocked our paths hadn't crossed until now, but I guess it kind of makes sense.
I know, I am too. And when I heard about what you were doing, I was like, are we not friends yet? So thank you. I'm glad that we're going to be friends. Well, I'm just telling you we're going to be friends now.
Love it.
So,
Love it. Love that
okay.
for us.
So I got into cycling when I was young because my dad was into it. And so he would take us on these extraordinarily long adventure rides when we were starting quite little. That was mainly road stuff, like bike touring kind of thing. So it was point to point, just trips to go explore here in California where I live. So fast forward to college, I left California and went to Fort Lewis College in Durango, and I brought a real janky 26-inch steel mountain bike with me. And really, because I just thought, riding bikes was fun. But once I got to Durango, I really got more into it and learned so much about it, met so many amazing people there riding bikes. So really developed more skill and and also just more love for the sport, both for adventure and fun and a little competition as well. Um, so from there, let's see, I ended up working for a bike tour company when I graduated college. I was not ready to do a 9 to 5, but I thought it would be a really fun way to see the country and make a little money while doing it. So I went to work for Backroads Bike Tour Company as a guide and had so much fun doing that for 5 or 6 years. And leading trips and in the American West and learning all about the history and topography and everything and about people and how to work with all types of people and how to get all types of people comfortable on their bikes, because at that time that was kind of pre-Peloton and pre-indoor cycling, and in an organized way. So we had a lot of folks who just didn't have much experience on bikes. They're adventurous, but wanted to get out and be comfortable. So I really enjoyed doing that job. I then went into teaching high school and was an English 12th grade English teacher here in Petaluma, California, and I absolutely love that job. I really love teenagers. I don't have kids or teenagers, but I just have always loved them. Um, and so teaching English was really an amazing, incredible experience, and I will probably do it again at some point. But after a few years of doing it and like grading research papers every day after school, and I was at a staff meeting with a friend of mine who's a math teacher who's also a cyclist, and I kid you not, we had heard about the NorCal League, which was the original NICA League, and we were sitting in a staff meeting, and we learned that if you coach a sport at the high school, that you don't have to go to staff meetings anymore. And my friend and I looked at each other and we were like, we know we both love to ride bikes. We know we've wanted to start this team for a while. Let's do it.
Oh my God. Why are more school districts not doing this? This is like a no-brainer.
I know. We always wondered where the football coach was. And then we're like, oh, right. so so let's see. We started a team at our high school and just had so much fun with the kids outside of the classroom, and all sorts of learning opportunities and just connection opportunities, trust building, relationship building, having real, genuine conversations. So that was just a great time. That was in the let's see, that was in the early 2000s, and as we started building the team and writing a bunch more, I thought, hey, we should join this league. We joined the league, started racing there, and then I really loved it. I was like, oh, these people are onto something. This is in the kind of nascent stages of the NorCal League, and so I just loved what they were doing with and where they were coming from and all the concepts behind, youth development through sport. Um, and so I joined the board of the NorCal League, and I you didn't know the answer was going to be this long, did you? Sorry, I'm going to
I'm
keep going.
loving it. I'm loving it.
Okay. Okay. So then I joined the board, and I really loved that because I could still, I was still teaching, but I could also be involved in cycling and help building this momentum that was building quite quickly, for youth cycling, and wasn't happening really anywhere else in the country. And I also kind of looked at Matt Fritzinger was the founder, and I always kind of went, I would love to have that guy's job someday. But I have no idea how to do it. I have not studied nonprofit management. I have an English degree and, a dance background and stuff. So, but anyway, when
Wait,
he
we have to
decided,
pause you and be like, what kind of dance?
Yeah,
oh,
please.
wow. Well, it was, I used to study and teach American tribal belly dance. Okay. It's a very specific form of gypsy style belly dance, not maybe Turkish, which a lot of people know as to be like really glitzy and flashy and all that. But check it out. Look it up on YouTube or something. American tribal. It's really kind of dark
Incredible.
and yeah, it's wild.
Incredible. I love
Um,
this.
this is funny. I've never, yeah. So, so then when Matt was leaving to start NICA, so he determined that the model here in NorCal had legs, and he thought, you know what, I'm going to try and take this across the country and build this into a national movement. And at that time I just decided, hey, I'm going to go for it. And I, like I said, I did not know what I was doing, and I did not have the skill set, but I was really motivated and eager to learn and love learning. um, so I was lucky enough to get the job as the executive director of the NorCal League when Matt left to start NICA. And excuse me,
Bless you.
from there just I think the first day, I remember my first day of work, and I got a laptop and a yoga ball to sit on, and like the
I just
key.
need you both to picture that I actually thought you said yoga ball, and in my head I thought lacrosse ball. So just
Oh,
add that to your laughter.
exactly. And a space heater, and so I had those three things, but I like flipped open the laptop and kind of was like, what the hell do I do now? No clue. Um, so I went about learning and educating myself and surrounding myself with people who know more than I do.
Okay, so
And
I want to hit this because I think like this is actually super interesting to a lot of people listening because I think a lot of people think, oh, I want to be in that world. I want to do this nonprofit thing. I want to, XYZ, but I don't have like I didn't go to school for that. So talk about those early like how did you learn? What did this look like?
yeah, I agree. And I think now maybe it's a little easier than at that point, just because of AI and
I'm gonna say,
Google and all the
ChatGPT,
things that can
how do I
help.
run a nonprofit?
Yeah, yeah. Um, but humans have always been I really love interacting with people. I love conversation. I'm curious about people and the world. And so that's how I learn better, is from humans and from doing with my hands. And so I just started, well, first I of course picked the brain of the person who started the foundation and the board and all that. But then I went to just cold calling executive directors of nonprofits and asking them if I could either take them to coffee or go for a walk, and um, kept all those meetings to a half an hour so that it wasn't, a burden on anyone. um, but just started meeting with as many people as possible and asking two questions, like, what would you do again and what would you never do? And the amount of incredible advice and the vast body of knowledge that is available to us if we are just curious is kind of interminable. um so I I had just tons of coffees and walks with people.
So caffeinated, so many steps.
So many steps, so much coffee, and so many notes. And then just also started talking to other people in youth sports, because I had played soccer all through my, youth, but I didn't have experience in other sports. So trying to take some learnings from organizations that were, clubs, like club sports here in California anyway. The club sport model is different than the school sport model, so we kind of look like a club sport. So I was talking to people who are running things like the surf club or the chess club or the hipster knitting club or whatever it was, to learn about how they structured their leagues and their clubs. So yeah, from there I had I ran the NorCal League for 15 years actually, and just stepped down in January. And during that time, I decided to get very involved as the national organization NICA grew. I decided to get quite involved there too because I really wanted to. I wanted to not complain about what a national governing body can is doing or was doing, and I wanted to help and be part of making it as awesome as it is today. So I'm still involved as the vice chair of the board of the of NICA, and that's really fun and rewarding for me because I can still help with decision making and messing things up and having success and all the pieces that are part of being part of a scrappy nonprofit.
I love it. I love it. Okay, and then She Sends also comes into the picture in actually when exactly did it? I was going to say in the last year, but you can probably speak more toward when did this how did this come about?
Yeah, so Kate Courtney was a an athlete in the NorCal League, and she actually got her start. That was when she first started racing, was when she was racing with us.
Oh my gosh.
And
So you like remember like tiny Kate
yes,
Courtney just like shredding around?
yes, I do. And I have um of course thousands of kids that come through the league every year. And but Kate was I was going through cancer treatment when she was in the league, and she just had this vast depth of empathy and um, thoughtfulness around that I was really touched by. And so we kind of stayed in contact. We both, she left and went on to amazing greatness. And uh, but we've stayed in contact over the years since then. So for the past 12, 13 years. And when she would come home from college or from a World Cup or from races, she would always call me and we would say like, hey, I want to go ride with teenagers or with girls, like how can I do this? And so she really has consistently always wanted to help in whatever way. And then certainly as she became really top of the heap, she even really wanted to use that um, in order to help even more. And so yeah, I was lucky. So anyway, we've stayed, long story is to say, we've stayed in touch a lot over the years to just do fun rides and go out with girls and have her chat with them and ride with them and hopefully inspire them. Um so anyway, I got a call. Honestly, it was kind of out of the blue. I had decided I was gonna move on from the league and really had no idea what the heck I was gonna do. Well, actually, I had a couple ideas. We can get into that in a minute, but she called me and just said, "Hey, I started this foundation a year ago, but I have too many balls in the air. I know you're busy, but I would love for you to run it if you would be interested." So, um, we both had a little freak out of excitement because it was kind of like, oh my gosh, your life has gone this way, my life has gone this way. And we happen to both be in this moment of time in 2025 where we can both say yes to this. So it's just kind of fun and serendipitous for both of us. And we still kind of have freak out sometimes when we talk. We're like, we're so excited we get to be doing this stuff together. I know it's
That's so
so
cute.
yes, it's fun. So yeah, so I've just been doing it for, less than 6 months.
Yeah. And I think what I really like about the origin story of that, and actually like really just of what Kate's done, is there's a lot of professional athletes will even say that start random foundations or like say that they're doing these like give back things that it's very surface level. But I like that I love that she was already doing like girls' rides and kids' rides and stuff long before there was like a title for it or like any real like recognition out of it. It was just because like this is a thing that she like genuinely cares about. And like I know you're kind of the same way. And yeah, I really like that. And then starting something more official rather than trying to get all the kudos without actually doing the real thing.
Yeah, it is really does come from a genuine place from Kate, and I think it's just been part of her to the core forever. This
Hmm.
whole concept of I mean, I don't want to say giving back because it sounds so cliche, but the concept of like helping others rise as you do is has always really been a real piece of her mentality.
Yeah.
I would say so. Marg McGregor, who used to work for COC, says sending the elevator down for others, right? And so, like,
Oh.
I can actually hear both of you doing that for each other. And then also at the same time, starting to do this for young girls. And, one of the things that, like, my reflection around sport, and I think what's so special about She Sends is we talk about the playground to podium pathway, right? And then it makes it like really linear, but it's actually the playground to podium and podium to playground pathway, right? And then all of a sudden, instead of it being this like linear trajectory, it's this continuum of us like all working together. So, you send the elevator down for a young kid, but there's probably a young kid out there that says something to Kate or you or a pro that's like, that you're like, oh my God, I now have all of the confidence in the world to like go out and send it.
Absolutely. And I've never heard that before, but I love the sending the elevator down analogy because you just wrote it and and then you're sending it for somebody else. Um, and yeah, I think I also love the playground and podium. It's really good. And or playground to riding your bike forever or playground to never getting on a podium, but just trying your best. Um,
You don't actually have to leave the playground, just so we're clear. Like if you can play in the playground forever. Like there's right, like, but that's why it's like instead of seeing it as points, it's like this like it's an ethos, it's an environment, right? And we're all in it together. And it's not about being an Olympic champion. It can be. And it's not about just playing in the playground, but it can be. But it's about everything. And it's then also for me, I'm not gonna lie, it's like who isn't in the playground yet and how do I invite them into the playground?
yes, exactly. And how do I make sure that the playground fits for them and yeah, and that they feel like they want to come back?
Okay, so this middle ground is actually where I kind of wanted to go is that, I think we have kind of this middle issue where we're missing this, right? Like we have kids, boys and girls, we learn how to ride bikes as kids for the most part. Like actually, although I think that is actually decreasing these days, which is kind of worrisome to me. I was when I was teaching a couple classes at SCAD earlier, like last year, the number of kids that were in my class, and, kids, I mean like 20-year-olds that were in the class that were like, "Oh, I don't know how to ride a bike." Was honestly shocking to me because it didn't occur to me that like that's not just like a everybody learns how to ride a bike. It's like riding a bike. Turns out that's no longer like the cliche. We might have to change the saying. Um, I don't know what we're going to change it to. Something about ChatGPT, I assume. I don't know. Um, anyway, where I'm going with that is there's like the playground side, the very just like fun when we're kid side, and then there's like this podium, like very elite mentality that tends to happen when we're a bit older, so say even like late teens, and then you kind of have this like middle years, the preteen years, where this is where we have girls dropping out of sport in general, and I think cycling is like one of the big ones. And I think it's because there's a gap between the playground and the podium here. And it does seem like NICA actually does really kind of come in to fix that. She Sends is like kind of starting to step in to fix that. You've been in this space for a very long time. Talk about that weird in between age and even like
Yeah.
cycling position in the cycling world where you're not one or the other.
Yeah, I like that you're thinking about that space because there is a lot of effort being put into both ends of the spectrum to enter the sport and to become excellent at the sport. But the joy and a lot of the joy and the community and the staying power is in that middle. And I would argue that NICA is our teams are successful not because of the races. People think of us as like a race. We put on these like big lovely well produced race events and they're very inclusive. Anyone who wants to participates. There's no barriers for that, but where the magic is not at those races. The magic is happening at practice. And So when we look at, I mean, we look at our roster here in Northern California, and let's say we have 3,000 kids registered. We have maybe 1,800 of those racing. Okay, so that is not a good ratio. If you're just looking at racing as being the single point of success. So why do we have all those kids though coming back every year and participating? And it's because they could give a crap about racing. They are just stoked to go out and ride with their friends, with other people who are at their level in an environment that's focused on fun and that is, safe, where they feel safe. So I don't feel like that's an area that the industry in general has focused is in that middle. I mean, whether it's through marketing materials or images or the bikes we're building or the way that we talk about cycling or the group rides that happen or um, so much of it is focused on getting better, getting better, getting better, getting better, getting so much better.
Yep, or
and
riding as like a
and
very lifestyle. Here's your beach cruiser, and you're going like
yes.
5 blocks.
Exactly. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with either of those things. We want people to be doing both of those things, trying to excel at the highest level, as well as riding the beach cruiser. But that place in between where maybe you do one or two races a year because you want to challenge yourself and you ride for fun with your friends and you also ride for fitness is a space where I think a lot of girls and women really fit, especially, and I could go on about this, so I don't mean to take us down too much of a rabbit hole, but especially with the, you know, um, I will say the inequity in the home still in America is women still are doing the majority of the stuff in the home in addition to working their jobs. And so they're, for many women, their time, they don't have as much time that it takes to become a really incredible top level cyclist. But they do have the time to ride and do it for fitness and do it for fun. So um anyway, so back to the original question, which is like what is happening, that's getting girls to stay in and that's getting those middle of the road girls there. I really do feel like the community piece is big. It purposefully built community is really big for that.
100%. Yeah. I remember when I was first starting the Shred Girl series, it started out of a series of interviews I did with girls who were in that like 12 to 15-year-old range. And it was what keeps them in sport. Because I was working on an article how that why they drop out. And then I was like, oh, that's a really sad article. Let's talk about the ones that are staying in. And they all just said they're friends. Like even the like highest, the highest ranking girls, like it wasn't that they were winning, it was that their friends were in it. So they were just gonna keep riding. So
Yeah, I
yes.
mean, it's the same for us, probably, right? Like, it's fun to go ride by yourself, but I'm more inclined on the weekends to go out with a bunch of friends.
I was gonna say, Sasha, do you have any research points to back this up?
I do, but I'd actually, instead of using research, and I'm me searching. I'm in a me search here. But Vanessa,
Sasha,
you've
I'm
Yes.
spoken.
shocked.
I'm always like, good God, how much more me search are you going to bring to this?
Oh no, me search
But
I'm fine with. I'm just like shocked that you're not like, well, the data. You're my data
the
person.
I am the data person, but I think it's the stories that are so much more important than the data, right? Like I can tell we can talk about all of the stats of like 2 to 6 times girls drop out of sport, depending if you ask Canadian women in sport or if you ask women in sport UK, and if it's 2020 or 2024, there's your data. But Vanessa, I want to hear more about this like magic wand, right? Like I love this idea of like you're creating magic at practice. So like I love if we could share with people like how do we tangibly do that? And if people could replicate like what's happening at these practices so that they can create magic.
Oh, that's cool. Thanks for asking that. I think, well, first of all, it's not just meeting and going for a ride. Like the um, community building, the trust, the safety, and the inclusivity don't just happen by going out and riding. Because especially if you're talking about doing this with youth, they're going to get faster than you real quickly. And you're going to be dropped and you are not doing any community building, intentional safety, trust, blah, blah, blah. You're off the back, dying, trying to catch up to the front of the, like all the girls that are ahead of you. So, what we do is really think about, well, first of all, and maybe this sounds counterintuitive with teens, but boundaries and making sure people feel safe physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all the things are maybe the number one thing first. So if I feel like I've got boundaries, everyone else is held to the same boundaries on my team. I know that no bullshit's going to be allowed. I know that everyone's treated the same, whether they're the top athlete or the beginner athlete. I can be myself and thrive and know that this place is safe. Then like trust building between the adults and the kids on the team is intentional also. And so it's curiosity and asking questions and really leaning into how do we listen to teens. And we tend to, whatever age we are, if we're over 20, I don't know, 20, we tend to, I think teenagers are hard, or they're in some phase, or this is how they are, and not really understand and lean into the fact that it is hard to be a teenager, and their issues, whether you think they're surface or not, are real. And so providing a space where um, teenagers can't feel like they are, not feel like, sorry, let me start that over. Providing a space where teenagers know that their story and their experience is important, and that their life is, important, even if they're only 16 years old, and that, their issues seem surface to us. So anyway, creating a space where adults can be curious, open-minded, and ask a lot of questions rather than having a lot of words. um
Just thank you. Like, can we bottle that? Like, here, we can change sport across the world, right? Trust build. And I think you said it, and I just want to make this explicit. Dear coaches, when we talk about trust building, what we're asking is you to build the trust with those athletes. Because so often, Vanessa, I hear, sometimes when I have my coaching hat on and I hear from other coaches, they're like, I expect the athletes to show me trust and they have to earn my trust. And I'm like, hard stop. Yeah, yes, hard stop. It is actually our job as adults to show them how much we trust them. But more importantly, it's actually going beyond that. And how you so eloquently said that trust building through curiosity and seeing them for who they are and where they're at. I also just tangentially, I'm going to say, I feel like I'm a teenager again with all of the things you just mentioned about being a teenager. I'm like, Molly, I'm really sorry. We're going to have a moment tomorrow in Sasha and Molly counseling where you can manage my teenage feelings.
I'm here for you. Are you gonna show up with like your hair in full like emo swoosh, like wearing all black, some like gothy makeup? I'm clutching a book of poetry or something. I'm like a little nervous now.
Yes.
You've got this. Yeah, we're ready for it. We're ready for it.
Well, I will, I did it. I was asked to do an exercise at some conference one time. And if you can see me right now, I'm holding a packet of Post-it notes. And so you got a packet of Post-it notes at this conference. And the facilitator said, on your Post-it note, write down the three things that or the three most memorable things that you remember from your favorite teacher or coach. Okay, so we wrote them down, like maybe how they made you feel, or what they taught you, or they were your favorite coach, your favorite teacher. So you wrote the three things down. Okay, so then the whole room, the facilitator said, okay, I'd like you to take your sticky note, and those of you who wrote down things that were related to your social or emotional well-being, stick those on this wall. Those of you that wrote things down that were related to the physical skills that you were coached on how to be better, put it on this side of the wall. Like 99% of the people went to the social emotional side of the room, not surprisingly, or was surprising to me. It wasn't that people remembered their favorite coach because they taught her how to have a more efficient pedal stroke. It wasn't because they taught her how to do a technical uphill climbing better. It was because they made her feel heard. They made her feel safe. They made her feel important. They made her feel strong. Um, they made her feel a sense of leadership or ownership. Fill in the blank for all of the different social and emotional pieces. And you can do this at any gathering or conference, do the same exercise, and it's really powerful. Now, um, I don't know a ton about him, so I don't mean to come off as some like Steve Kerr like pro, but the basketball coach for the Warriors, Steve Kerr, is like really awesome. I think he's really awesome, and he uses this concept as well. Like the relationship with the athlete is the most important part. The hard skills, you know, the athlete can learn from anyone. So anyway, there's all sorts, and Sasha, I don't mean to insult your intelligence because you know this way more than I do, and there's all sorts of books about it. There's like Changing the Game, John O'Sullivan, all these things. Everyone knows this, right? But it has been for me really fascinating to learn that the success can come from something as simple as that, as thoughtfully curating that piece.
Well, and by the sounds of it, and capturing the magic of what really is NICA, is instead of focusing like we so traditionally do in coach education and coach modeling and coach research, the focus is on building the rapport, because we can't actually, you can't teach a skill until you've actually built a rapport and trust with somebody.
Yeah.
And so, right, and so modeling, right, like we need to celebrate the first thing that you need to do in terms of coach education, not your group, but like I'm speaking to like coaching education in general, is actually teach those skills of building relationships. So I'm gonna pass this along. So I come from engineering, and we tried to get away from soft skills and hard skills, because particularly with engineers, when you say to engineers soft skills, they're like, well, I don't care about that. And so how do we reframe that? And I don't know what the words are, so I'm always like asking people how we could do that. But I think if we change that vernacular, right, about the most important thing that you can actually do and the most important skill that you can learn as a coach is rapport building, I think that's going to change the culture of like not just cycling but sport in general. So thanks for doing that.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, thanks. And I agree. It is, some people it just sounds absolutely awful to think about doing that. They're like, I just want to ride bikes with the kids, and you are going to end up doing that. Um, but uh yeah, that intentionally doing that is piece of it. So I'll add to that. So just one more piece. Because Molly, you asked about like what's happening, or maybe it was you, Sasha, but you asked about like what's happening at practice, that where this magic is coming from. Is also providing opportunities to connect on the trail and off the trail. So I guess I'm kind of repeating myself, but that is things like we're going to stop 3/4 of the way through and we're going to play like this really like stupid game with a tube where we try and like get it passed between all of our bodies without our hands breaking free from the whatever, or we're going to like I don't know, do some like pyramid and take some really stupid photos, or we're just going to all reconvene for something that's just like not purposeful. It's just kind of dumb and fun. Or outside of sport connection as well. Like we all know that doing good for others helps our own mental health. So if we can provide teens with those opportunities too, they may not always want to. But hey, like doing some trail work, but then also having tacos afterwards and making it fun, or like doing a cycling clothing drive and getting the clothes to a team that doesn't have a bunch of nice cycling clothes, and just doing some stuff like that is good for everyone's mental health.
I love it. And all of this talk about, how the coaches are interacting is leading me into the one question I also wanted to ask. I know you've done a lot of work trying to bring in more women coaches because we know, the importance of having coaches that the girls identify with is so important. That's part of psychological safety. That's part of making them feel like it's more for them. And I know Nika is doing a really good job at trying to bring more women, especially the moms, into coaching. So talk to me about like how that plays into this whole concept of, making this more accessible, making this more fun.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I'll first start by saying we're an all ed sport. So we're all genders and all the genders practice together. So
Which I think is
that
hugely important. Side note,
yeah,
like
yeah,
I love girls' sport. I think it's so important, but I think at
yeah.
all ages, there is such value in everybody is practicing together because I think that's you get to develop more friendships. You get to, have, more athletes pushing each other because if you just have the girls over here and you have the boys over here, you have like different ability levels and it's a whole thing. But I really appreciate when we have spaces for girls, like Nika has grit, but also typically everyone is practicing together. And then there's like moments where the girls can have their thing. Yes, love it.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. So it used to be called co-ed. Obviously, we call it all ed. We just, we have all everyone. So everyone rides and practices together, and we like you say, we do believe that's part of the magic because that is different than all school sports, right? Except for track. Although usually track the genders practice separately. So our practices are really unique in that they're all ed. And I will start by saying that we have amazing male allies as coaches. So I will just start there. We have amazing male allies who are all about grit, all about building women's cycling, and that's key. But we also know that we have way less women coaches than men. Um, and when we saw that and we realized that we're 50% of the population. We should be 50% of the coaching. Um, so we decided we need to do something about that. And because we also decided that there were more boys, we obviously know there are more boys in NICA than girls. So we also need to do something about that if we're 50% of the population. So we've tried all sorts of things. We've failed on some and succeeded on some. But one cool thing that we've been doing recently is okay. Oh, wait, let me go back. We do know that a lot, and I will say a lot, not all, a lot of the girls thrive in a single gender scenario. So, yes, we're co ed sport and co ed is awesome and it makes us unique. But we also do know from asking the girls directly, a lot of them just feel like they're willing to challenge themselves when it's just girls around more than if there are boys there too. So, if that's the reality, then that means we need more women coaches. So, how do we do that? Um, One thing that we've been doing is this thing we're calling mob, which is, moms on bikes. And what I took inspiration was from Durango Devo. They run an amazing program in Durango for development for kids, and they shared this concept with me. So we cannot take credit for it. But the idea is like what we would see and what they were seeing a lot was usually moms were dropping off kids at practice and then going to the store and doing life, right? Because they're like, cool, 2 hours, so I can go do the errands and do all the things that need to happen. And then coming back and picking the kids up. And a lot of these moms were like, um, or a lot of the moms were waiting at practice and hanging out and working or chatting or whatever. So we thought, hey, we have an opportunity here. We have 2 hours where we could also provide an opportunity for moms to either learn how to ride mountain bikes or go out on rides together and create some community. So we started doing that and encouraging all of our teams to do that. So yes, it's more of a lift because not only are you now taking 50 kids out mountain biking a few times a week, but you're also taking maybe 25 moms on a separate ride. But it's really been impactful. We've found that a lot of moms are realizing that they can do this, that they want to do this, that it's a unique time in life to actually be able to be on the field with their kid playing the same sport. I mean, like, doesn't happen in tennis or pickleball, you know? Um, so was really unique. And then also a lot of moms who had seen maybe their children or their partners riding but didn't know or think it was for them. So that introduction and that, hand holding to get into it has been really helpful. So um, e-bikes have also really changed the game for all of our any gender coaches. We have an inordinate amount of people, coaching in places where e-bikes are legal and where that has become a very incredibly powerful tool for coaching because you aren't just getting dropped. You can actually coach skills, etc., have conversations with all of the team using that as a tool. Not to not to drop everybody, but to actually get to connect with everybody on the ride. So that tool has been quite helpful for a lot of our coaches as well.
I love that because I think it really does open up coaching to a much wider array of parents and volunteers for sure. Yeah, because we always say cycling is one of the only, I think it's actually the only sport I can think of that requires the coach to be like pretty much the same like fitness level as the athlete in order to like,
Nordic skiing. Nordic skiing, because we
oh,
think
there we
about
go.
kids in Nordic skiing. Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Don't get them lost in the mountains.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yes. Okay, so there's very few sports that require the coach to be at the same level as the athletes, and the e-bike really makes that easier. Absolutely.
Yeah, my nephew started in the league this year, which is really cool for me, kind of full circle moment. And my brother started coaching, and he's a former pro mountain biker, and he's coaching one of this team that has over 100 kids on it. And he called me a couple months into coaching, and he was like, "Oh God, I need to train super hard, way harder than I've trained in years to keep up because he's tasked with riding with the fast kids." And he's like, "There's no way I'm getting absolutely crushed on every."
Well, and especially like, I mean, teens have no filter of like how they're gonna feel the next day or anything. They're just full send all the time, which I love.
Absolutely.
Now, I do want to come back to She Sends because I think what's so interesting to me about She Sends is that, well, to this point anyway, like a big part of what you're doing is literally just supporting other endeavors in cycling. So you're supporting programs that are already going and helping bring them up. And I think to me, I wanted to highlight that because I think it's very tempting to I include myself in this, always start your own project and, have your own thing. And, She Sends very easily could have just started like, oh, we're going to do our own girls group. We're going to do our own version of Little Bellas or Nika Grit. And instead, how it started is actually working with Nika's Grit program and Little Bellas and all of these. So to me, that really just highlights the importance, especially for bringing more girls into cycling, of all of us working together, not competing with each other, which is what tends to unfortunately happen in some of these situations. So talk to me about that decision and, this important bringing everyone, up in this elevator.
Yeah, thanks. I agree that, well, so having worked in the nonprofit arena for a long time, you're always looking for money, of course. And it's a really important piece of your work, but the more important piece of your work is focusing on the actual life-changing programmatic things that you're doing. So Kate really saw that after working with a lot of us in the space because she works, has helped Little Bellas for a long time. She's helped Nika for a long time. And really saw that we were always kind of, scraping for funds. And so the idea for the foundation is honestly, we are here to support the good work that other people are doing. And it feels really different personally. It feels really different because I don't have, I don't have my hand out currently I'm able to like give my hand to other people. And there are so many people like you, like Little Bellas, like Nike, like, I mean, there, Cycle Effect, the Skanks, all the million different organizations that are doing the work. And there really is not a need for yet another organization to do it. There's a need for us to support the work that they're doing. So being in the position to be able to offer that is feels really powerful. And trust me, I come from an event. I own an event production company. Like, I want to, first I'm like, Kate, oh, we should do this, and then we need to start this, and then this. And she's kind of like, okay, no, wait. The whole point is we're trying to do, support other people, and it's really good to remind ourselves that we're here for that. Like, I'll give another example in that we just partnered up with Strava, and we have this Strive for More grant. So it falls. So all that other work I was just talking about falls in the kind of development phase of cycling. We also have a part of the foundation that we want to support people who are really striving to be top level elite athletes. And as you two know better than I do, the support for those athletes can be really tough. Like, the industry is not in a great place right now. It's hard to get sponsorship. There aren't many organizations that are supporting top level athletes with money. So we are trying to bridge that gap. So I think next week, we will announce we have five awardees of, they'll get $5,000 in support from us, and that money came directly through Strava, and those are U23 athletes. So it's like a really tiny window. It's like 19 to 23-year-olds who are competing at the highest level, and could prove to us through their application that they have zero funding and they have multiple jobs and they are doing this incredible endeavor with no support. And so that's exciting for us too, is to be able to fund those girls and women, because Kate hears so often, and certainly on the World Cup circuit, she talks to women all the time who are like, I barely got here because the plane ticket was so expensive, and I have to get, my apartment and my mechanic, and I have like one helmet, one bike, one pair of shoes. Like, it looks super slick and flashy from the outside, but it's expensive to race at the top level, especially if you're, a little younger and you don't have a job, or that you're trying to make this your job. So anyway, we're not solving that problem, but we're helping, and trying to help, and be a little, cog in the wheel that helps, because there is a real need there.
I love it. I love it. I realize I say I love it all the time, but I really do.
Yay.
Very excited.
I was just gonna say, and on the gender gap side, right? Like, we know that funding is harder for girls in sport and women in sport than boys in sport. And I actually, to your point, want to say I don't think it's supposed to be one funder, right? I think collectively we need to come together. And if, like, I reflect upon this whole interview, right? Like, it is about that collective and coming together.
Yeah, I agree. And we can't, thank you. And we can't expect, industry in an industry that isn't doing great right now, we can't expect them all to just continue like shelling out tons and tons of money for athletes, right? Like, we need to diversify. If we look at other sports where athletes are making enough money to compete, and even do so with a salary, they're not getting that funding from one source.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like I've written so many articles where cycling has an endemic sponsorship problem where
Oh,
we really just all kind of like tend to just go within the cycling industry for funding. And not that many people have cracked the non-endemic sponsor like ceiling. Obviously, Kate Courtney being one of the few that has. Really kind of like lends credence to that concept. Um, the other thing I actually wanted to kind of shout out too is I know you, or at least I saw on the She Sends Instagram that you did a bit, or at least you talked up the Virginia's Grit program, did a bunch of stuff recently. They had like a weekend mountain bike thing for girls. Um, and I think I just kind of wanted to highlight the small programs that are out there that are doing really cool work with 20 riders, 15 riders, 30 riders. I think a lot of the time, we hear these stories, and NorCal League is certainly a great example of thousands of riders. But I think it's also so worth pointing out that a lot of the stuff starts with 5 riders, 10 riders, and, slowly grows from there. Like I'm now keeping my eye on Virginia because I'm seeing them grow, even just in the past year. And that's super cool. I was just at New Jersey's last race of the season last month and seeing that compared to the first, like I was there the first year New Jersey NICA started, and it was, 150 riders. And, we had like, I think 20 girls in total, and it was all of them came out when I first launched the Shred Girls book because like we did a girls pre-ride together, and that was New Jersey Grit was 20 girls, and this race had a couple thousand riders, and uh, you know over 100, like well over 100 girls starting, and that starts really small. It does not start big and sexy and cool looking on Instagram. It starts with 5 girls in a field.
It does. And thanks for that call out, because I think if people wonder how to get involved, it can feel intimidating. It can feel big. It can feel like they have to tap into something that's monumental already. And that's absolutely not how any of this has been built. It has been built with someone who just likes to ride and wants to pass that on and pass on the stoke. And if you are able to do that with one person in your whole life, I mean, how lucky are you and they? So it doesn't have to be a a huge dedication of time or yeah, jumping into a massive program. I mean, if we can all the ripples, if we can all create a little ripple in our own towns and communities and stuff, it turns into a wave, right?
100%. Okay, before we wrap up, any last words or tell everyone where they can, find, follow, etc.
Well, I guess last words would be that hopefully you can just encourage people to invite someone out on a bike, a kid or an adult who either hasn't done it in a long time or very rarely does it, and just go have a joyful experience with them. Again, the more that we can get people out who just need a little nudging, the more humans we have on bikes, the more we're out of cars, the more we're connected to one another. So just encourage people to do that, um, and to show up for women's sports. And the exposure matters, whether you're watching, you're donating, you're participating, you're cheering, you're supporting in some way. Showing up for women's sports is important, especially as the momentum is just really growing right now. So come join us in whatever sport that is. Hopefully it's cycling, but in all the women's sports, come join us. Everyone's welcome. And if you're interested in what the foundation's doing or interested in supporting any of the organizations that we do or donating to us so that we can give your money to someone doing great stuff, or any one of those things, we're shesendsfoundation.org. We're on Instagram also, so you can find us easily there. We would be grateful and humbled to have you along for the ride.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Strong Girl Talk podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely head over to wherever you listen to podcasts and rate, review, and of course, subscribe so you never miss another episode. And head over to stronggirlpublishing.com to check out all of the books by Strong Girl Publishing's authors, including Molly Herford, Misha Powell, and so many more. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.